Welcome in, everybody. Another 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. A little bit of a special show today. You definitely see someone sitting next to me, but it's going to be a little bit different because we are headed to Digital Dealer Tampa. Okay, those of you who don't know that already, there is going to be an incredible group of people put together to do a speaking session for dealers on the second day. Technically the third day, the way it's set up now, but we are going to go out there and we are going to have a blast. We're going to be bringing value from every single angle possible. And so a lead up to that, something I'm going to be doing on this show is we're calling the Digital Dealer Speaker Spotlight. And I'll be focused on the dealers that we'll be bringing with us. And yes, when I say us, I mean me. After a almost 5-year show retirement, I have been asked by the most wonderful of humans and April Simmons to come out of that retirement and come out to a show. So we're doing it in Tampa. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's kick it off with Colby Joyner. Colby, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm too blessed to be stressed.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So Colby is, Colby, fair to say, marketing director. I know you're a VP of marketing and strategy. Is that sort of what does that role entail for you? Instead of me guessing, why don't you tell us?
I mean, it's relatively all encompassing. You know, it's I think the unique way that it's been positioned here at the group is, adding that strategy into the kind of role and title allows kind of this bigger swath of my ability and the team's ability to jump in multiple different areas within the process and within the store and within, multiple departments to understand not only like how are we going to market, how are we going to push message, how are we going to capture customers to bring them in, but what strategy and what vendor partners that we're using, what processes are we using in the store to be able to turn around and use those processes as a strategy for marketing and advertisement. So I love that part because instead of just receiving whatever it is, that the store's doing and trying to figure out how to, bake a cake with it, we definitely able to get more involved in the nitty gritty of the entire process to understand and have, clear direction.
Yeah, the strategy part is a big one for me, and that's what stuck out to me on your title. So commonly we see the marketing directors marketing this, marketing that, and I always tell people, even marketing companies, one of the biggest things that people lack in the industry is they lack strategic alliance and understanding how it works, where it goes, right? So many people ask me from our database, client-wise, Sean, what's the data look like? Well, it looks like this, but what's the strategy behind how we got to the data, right? What's the next step to that? So that's a really, really cool part of the strategy. Colby, what does your team look like as a marketing guy? How many people are on it? Sort of what does the marketing squad around Colby look like?
I have a gentleman by the name of George who really helps with a lot of our digital assets and kind of the, some of the frustrating pain points with, GBP and our websites and kind of keeping that design, graphics, creative stuff in house. And then I have a social media ambassador that we just brought on to be able to help with some of this organic stuff, traffic and influence that we're going to be putting on social media. As of right now, that's it. Just 3.
Okay.
So it's a big job for us 3. It's a lot of to-dos. I have 2 8x4 whiteboards in my office that stay pretty much filled with to-do tasks, and I can check them off and move it on and move forward. And, for good, bad, or ugly, it stays full with things to do. So
pretty common, right, of our industry to have, a smaller department try and take on the bigger load of work, right? So most people we come across in our world, we're there to support them because of that, right? So we've got an 18 store group here in Wisconsin that has 2 wonderful, hardworking women, right? 2 just ain't enough. The math ain't there, right? So everyone's got more and more to do. And I love the fact that we do keep it tight because there's no waste in that. And I think that's a big part for dealerships is the waste part of it. So Colby, how long have you been in the marketing side of the business? Like as far as your role, I know your role now is fairly new, not necessarily new, but fairly new. How long has it been a role of yours in general?
I would say 7 years.
7 years. And you've been in the industry that long, Colby?
I've been in the industry 9 years.
9 years. Cool. Cool. And in your 9 years, I'm sure you have attended a show or two. Why don't you give us the dealer perspective as to what you go for, what you look for, not only when you go to the actual, vendor hall, but what you look for when you go into sessions, what's important to you to figure out from a dealer perspective?
I don't know if I attack it in a different way than others. Obviously it's a good time to be able to enjoy people that you don't get to see, like-minded people that you get to kind of, commune with. It's not very often that you can get, 4 or 5 of the people that you communicate with on social media that are in the same role as you across the nation to be able to, sit down at a table and have a conversation and kind of chat and say, hey, what are you doing here? How are you doing this? Or what vendor are you using with this? Or, what struggles have you had? But, I've always attacked it in a different way of really looking at the sessions beforehand, really mapping out a calendar of sorts to say, hey, what are we struggling with now? What are some things that I think we're going to be struggling with potentially in the future? How do I go out there and get educated to make sure that whenever I come back to our group or our store, wherever I'm, at that point, wherever I was working, to be able to be a resource for the store, whenever I get back. So I always go into it as I need to understand what problems I need to solve. I need to understand what areas do I need to learn more to be more educated and more of an expert in. And then really, I've always looked at our vendors or vendor partners as a friend, as a vendor partner. And I know that kind of that's been buzz, in terms of the, vendor and retail relations for a long time. But I don't want to bring anybody on that I don't trust and that I don't feel like they have the best interest of in mind with us. I don't want it to be a we're X whatever dealer, dealer partner, and you're Cavender Auto Group. Like, I want them when we're on calls, they represent Cavender Auto Group. They're not distracted by anything else other than what's going on with us, at least during our calls, and we're having conversations, we're building strategy together and really looking at trying to be as collaborative with every other vendor partner that we work with. I don't need to have, siloed partners. So when I go there, I communicate with them. I have conversations with them. We break bread. We really kind of try to bond more in person so that whenever we go back to the dealer side and I'm in my role working day to day, that relationship becomes more fruitful when it comes to the collaboration and communication. So I really do feel like I kind of attack it in a different way. I build the relationships, but at the same time, I make sure that I go there and get as educated as I can according to what we need to grow in.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I was recently on the Alpha Dog podcast, and he and I sort of got into it about the term vendor partner. And I'll be honest with you, it comes to me from our clients. So if my client sits and calls me a partner of his at a table, then that's what I am. And it's always a strive for me, but it's not something I push on people, right? Because I realize some people don't feel the same way about it. But if a client steps up and he's like, hey, this is Sean Welsh, Colby has done better. He's a partner of ours. Done. Easy. That's what we strive for. That's who we want to be. I love what you're saying, though, when you talk about plans and looking at the schedule ahead of time and saying, do I need to do this? Where do I need to be? And this year, it's supposed to be a little bit different, right? It's supposed to be less sessions per hour, more opportunity to sort of dive in and see what's going on. Colby, when you get a chance to be a part of a session like this, what's the excitement for you as a dealer to be in a room with, a few of us vendors, a few other of the dealers? What does that do for you? What does the energy bring to you to go up on stage and be a part of a problem-solving session like we have planned?
I think it goes back to whatever you put out into the world, you get back tenfold. So, I don't want it to come across as selfish, but obviously when I go up there, if I speak anywhere, if I get on a panel, or if I'm having a group discussion with anything, I'm going to, give the best and the most knowledgeable information that I can based off of my experience. Doesn't mean that I'm right or that I'm wrong. It's just based off of my experience. This is what I've done. But in doing so, I get that communication back, or I get the questions back to allow me to expand my thought and ability to explore other areas or other items or other avenues that I haven't yet. So it's just as much of a learning experience for me as it is for the dealers and vendor partners in the room. There's something that's been in my head lately where the statement is, there's a lot of people that have all the answers, but very few know how to ask all the questions.
Wow, powerful. I like that. I'm someone who asks probably far more questions than I'll answer in a given day. Only because I seek to understand so much, right? Like that's my whole thing in life. Is anyone brings me a position, it's not, well, let me tell you what I think. It's, well, how did you get there? Right? How did you arrive at this? Where are we with this problem? And I think a lot of people tend to push an agenda, right? Or push a position, where for me, to do the role that we do in the industry, we have to be so unbiased that you have to walk in as clear as possible. When you are talking with other dealers, is that in those roundtables, do you find that to be some of the most beneficial time you'll spend at these shows, because you guys, as you said, are like-minded, you're running into the same problems, you're able to create that part of it, so that dealer to dealer plus a sort of vendor avenue probably is a pretty decent way to get a conversation rolling?
I mean, it turns the table into like a hive mind. You're leveraging the power of 5 to 10 different people and their intelligence into one conversation. So the amount of fruit that is able to be pulled off of that tree is immense. And that's what I love about it, is the ability. I mean, to the point, in my office to the right of me, I have a 6-person conference style table in my office to increase the amount of overall group collaboration on items, because I know that if you bring a lot of people together, you're going to have people that have the ideas, you're going to have the executors in the room, you're going to have the naysayers, you're going to have the blind supporters. Everything is going to be in there. The more that we can create that diverse conversation on a particular subject, I think the further that you can go in the subject and the deeper knowledge and ability you will have to be able to execute on that, or understand that, hey, it's time to stop going in this direction. We need to pivot and go in a different direction.
I think that's another thing. A lot of people get stuck in a position, right? And don't have the ability necessarily to pivot, or don't see a reason to pivot. And I think that's something that as dealers, we have to all be better at, right? I think that if the last 3 years hasn't taught you that being in the pivot game as soon as possible is the most important, I'm not sure when you will have learned it. Obviously, living through what we've lived through, we've seen sort of that change. And it looks that way also with some of the shows, right? So again, haven't been in a long time, looking forward to getting back out there. But this sort of newer environment about training and learning differently than we have in the past, I think is exciting, is very exciting. Colby, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to your dealer brethren and sister who were going to be attending these shows from your position, having attended a few? What's a solid piece of advice you think that they all need to hear?
Be prepared. Bring a separate notepad, or get a Remarkable or an iPad pen, right? So be prepared. Bring something to take a vicious amounts of notes. Don't worry about going in and making the notes look pretty. Just write down everything you hear, review it, and go into it without an ego and without any kind of preconceived bias. Go into it just like full white paper, what is going on, because after you go back and you review everything that you brought in, it gives you time to process it. And then, the amount of lift in your knowledge is going to be kind of insane. So be prepared by all means, and just be a vicious note taker.
I would say as a caveat to that, or in addition to that, people, look, this is, not many people can see this, but these are my notes for one. I've been talking to Colby for 13 minutes. That's what happens. They make zero sense. They look, my wife calls them, the sketchings of a sociopath. But the point is that I write them all down because I can process them. The other side of this that I think a lot of people should use is you all have these They'll have voice recorders on them. You see something you like, just tell yourself a note. I know it sounds crazy, but we created an entire business via audio notes a decade ago. And it's something that can really be done easily. I'm not great at taking notes, hence my paper. But it also allows us to be able to go back, process. I circle a lot of things that are important to me throughout my scratch pad that stand out to me. And so that's really what, I think people should be looking at and learning from. When you go, Colby, how do you handle, this is just me asking the question, how do you handle the nightlife side of these shows? Because you can always kind of tell when it's someone's first show, Colby. I think it's fair to say. And so how do you help, or what tricks and tips do you have for folks in dealing with the nightlife part of what we're doing here?
I think it's the benefit of some of these shows is that you have the ability to enjoy yourself with people that are of typical like mind. They're in that, most of us, regardless of, and I say us as human beings, we're always going to gravitate towards somebody that is in the same pocket of the world as we are. Car guys, car girls, they huddle around together. Doctors, nurses, they huddle around together. All of the, like, regardless of the situation, the industry, they all huddle around together. And people like to talk about their job. They like to talk about work because it's the only thing that they, 8 hours a day, every day, that's what they're focused on. So go and enjoy yourself. That's what I do. I go and enjoy myself. I get to, kind of relax a little bit in the evenings with, any of the nightlife that's going on. But I would just highly suggest you're there, whether it's your company or you own the company or whatever it is, you're there to learn. You're there to capture something and bring it back. And if you create a situation where you are unable to learn the following day or, every other day, then you don't have that strength of integrity that, your employer is asking for. So, be prepared, enjoy yourself, relax, do the things that you need to do in the evening to enjoy others and to kind of build the camaraderie around everybody. But, understand that you're going there to learn and to grow as an employee or as a, industry partner, you name it.
Yeah, it is a business event, right? And so people have to be responsible. And we always say, be good stewards of your company, right? Don't embarrass your company. We go there. We're a small company. We show up. We try to have ourselves a good time, but also make sure that we represent the brand. Our logo is everywhere. When we go out at night, we wear the logo. I don't hide from it. I show it all. And sometimes it works out for me, and other times it doesn't. You know what I mean? Other times I get a bunch of crap for wearing it out late at night. Like, hey, when does work shut off? And as someone who runs and owns a company, the answer is never. Absolutely never. The work never stops for me. The ability of branding never stops. But I do think that a lot of people need to remember the learning aspect, and that someone's fitting a bill usually, right, Colby? Someone is paying for this to happen. And so you should respect that. You should understand that it is here to learn and be a part of the peer groups. Colby, I'm really excited about our session. What excites you about it, man? In particular, some of the people on there. You and I have never met in person. It's the first time we've actually sort of met in the digital space. But what are you excited about in particular to that room as we sort of wrap this up here with our digital dealer spotlight?
All the varied different sides of the industry that are going to be in the room. So it's not just, hey, this is a session about paid search, or hey, this is a session about social media, or this is a session about fixed ops marketing, or this is a session about, process and BDC or whatever. It's all in there, because in reality, that's one of the things that I think kind of hurts our industry, is that we pocket everything. We put everything in very, very siloed, very separate areas, and there's a barrier between it all. And then we go back and we try to execute within those barriers and don't understand the attachments that each of those departments and each of those, strategic, initiatives, how they're interjoined, and how if one is not working, the other one's not going to work. And so regardless of how much effort you put into it, it's not working because of something from an outside influence. So I love the fact that all of the various, areas within the dealership are going to be there in one room to be able to almost yell across a room like, hey, what do you think of this? If we did this, how would this affect you? Oh, that's gonna, for lack of better terms, that's gonna suck. Don't do that. Okay, got it. Let's see if we can pivot and at our table and come up with a different idea or a different issue. The other thing is too, with having dealers in there, and sitting at these tables, you're going to get a lot of, hopefully a lot of very interesting questions of struggles that they're having individually. And one of the biggest things that I think that we need to do as an industry is just communicate more. There are no secrets in the car business. No. Or there shouldn't be, right? People shouldn't say that there's no secret. So help your other dealer, help your partners, be a resource to people. It goes back to the whatever you put out into the world, you get back tenfold. Be a resource. So even if you're going to the session and you're not a part of the group that is putting it on, be a valuable asset to the session. Just be, you're going to go in there with questions, but also go in there prepared to have solutions. Because if you can help somebody else, maybe they can help you. Y'all both have different problems, but you both have different solutions.
I love that part of it. I think that's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to being in a room with people to cover from A to Z, whether it's BDC, fixed ops, data, whatever. We're going to have all those people. And I think the lineup of people is so professional, a lot of independent workers and thought processes that really, that's what really gets me excited. But I love, again, you talk about the dealers and don't just be ready to come in here with a problem. Be ready to come in here listening to other people. Maybe you have a solution. Maybe you yourself have already fixed this. And it's okay to tell a dealer, if you're a dealer in Florida, a dealer in Texas, it's okay to share those informations with each other. Okay. I know we get concerned about, the dealer next to us knowing how we do business, but I always tell people in my spot, people always say, well, your business model is just, it's very easily duplicated. Well, sure. The model itself is duplicated, but the people within it are not. So don't ever think that there's an idea that you can just take and run with because you heard someone else do it. Remember, there are pieces to the process that you may not have yet. And I think that's where we can really, really, really help fill them in. All right, Colby, we're going to wrap this up. My last question for you is when you look at this from an overall perspective of the session, give dealers the main reason to attend this session, Colby. Why should they be there on their final day, 10:30 in the morning? Why should they be in this session?
Because the previous day or days that you've been there, you have been bombarded with multiple different thought processes, strategies, ideas, products. This is your ability to kind of package it all up in one. This is your ability to kind of test out and ask other people in a very collaborative space whether or not those products or those strategies or those processes work, and is anybody using them, and how can we execute on this? This is your wrap up, for lack of better words. This is your ability to say, hey, I have 10 pages of notes of different sessions and different vendor partners that I've spoken with during this time. It's given me some of these great ideas. How do I execute on this? And not only the benefit of the session is that you're going to have other dealers that are going to be speaking in there. You're going to have vendor partners that are going to be in there, and you're going to have a plethora of different people that are going to be sitting at these tables. Utilize the community to solidify your thought process of your entire visit to Digital Dealer.
Man, I could not have wrapped it up better. That is it right there, folks. We're talking about a session on the last day before the venue opens, before lunch happens. And we're not the earliest. So you got some time, get up, shake out the webs, and get over here. This is going to be probably one of the best sessions I've ever been a part of in my time. Again, taking a few years off, but we hit it hard for the first 6 years of this company. So we were there all the time. We know what to expect. We're looking forward to it. Colby, man, thanks a lot for making the time. I really, really appreciate it. You are such a star in this industry. I look forward to meeting you in person here coming up. And thanks again for doing the show, man.
No, absolutely. And I'm super excited to meet you in Tampa.
That'll be great. All right, everyone. If you don't know already, Digital Dealer Speaker Spotlight, Colby Joyner. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you all in Tampa May 1st through the 4th, but specifically on May the 3rd, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at 10:30 a.m. out there. Thank you guys so much. Have yourselves a wonderful week, and join us next week for what we hope to be yet another dealer spotlight.